France's defense gambit, a bid for European strategic autonomy that could fracture NATO. In the wake of a seismic political shift in France, President Emmanuel Macron's new government is championing a vision for European defense that is causing alarm in Washington and division across the continent. At the heart of this ambitious and to many alarming plan is a concept known as European strategic autonomy, a policy that risks pulling Europe and America apart at a time of heightened global tension. The architect of this bold initiative is not a firebrand from the far left, but a centrist stalwart, François Bayrou, the newly appointed French foreign minister. A key ally of Macron, Bayrou is now the chief advocate for a policy that seeks to build a militarily and industrially independent Europe, capable of acting as a powerful, sovereign partner to the United States, rather than a permanent dependent. The core of the French argument. The French position, as articulated by Bayrou, is born from a stark lesson learned from recent conflicts. The war in Ukraine exposed Europe's critical dependence on American military hardware, from ammunition to advanced missile systems. This reliance, Paris argues, leaves European security vulnerable to the whims of U.S. domestic politics. The contentious debate over American aid to Ukraine serves as a wake-up call. Europe cannot outsource its fundamental security to a partner whose political compass can shift dramatically every 4 years. Furthermore, France points to the America First doctrine of the Trump presidency as a permanent feature of the American political landscape, not a one-off anomaly. The belief in Paris is that the United States, regardless of who is in the Oval Office, is gradually and inexorably pivoting its focus away from Europe and toward the strategic competition with China in the Pacific. Therefore, Bayrou contends, European strategic autonomy is not an act of hostility toward NATO or the US, but a necessary act of responsibility. The goal is to create a Europe of power that can defend its own interests and territory, thereby becoming a stronger, more reliable ally within the NATO framework, a true second pillar, rather than a collection of protectorates. The mounting opposition and risks. This vision, however, is meeting fierce resistance on both sides of the Atlantic. Critics see it not as a plan for strengthening the West, but as a blueprint for its fragmentation. The most immediate concern is the duplication of effort. NATO, for over 7 decades, has been the bedrock of transatlantic security. Building a separate, parallel European command structure, defense industry, and military planning capability is seen by many members, particularly in Eastern Europe, as a catastrophic waste of scarce resources. These nations, living in the shadow of a revanchist Russia, view the American security guarantee under NATO's Article 5 as non-negotiable. They fear that any move to dilute the alliance in favor of an untested European alternative would be a gift to the Kremlin. In Washington, the French plan is viewed with deep skepticism. U.S. officials argue that the effort required to stand up an independent European defense structure would inevitably come at the expense of investment in NATO. The fear is that Europe will focus inward for a decade, arguing over structures and budgets, while the immediate threats from Russia and elsewhere continue to grow. The result could be a weaker, distracted West, precisely at the moment it needs to present a united front. Delicate balancing act. The challenge for Macron and Bayrou is immense. They must convince a skeptical European audience, including powerhouse Germany, that their vision is practical and not merely a vehicle for French influence. They must also reassure the United States that this is not a path toward decoupling from NATO. The coming months will be a critical test of European unity. Will Macron's government succeed in rallying the continent around a new, independent defense identity? Or will its ambitions be bogged down by bureaucratic infighting and the legitimate fears of its allies, ultimately creating the very division its adversaries seek to exploit? One thing is clear, France has placed a high-stakes bet on the future of European sovereignty. The outcome will determine not only the structure of Europe's armies, but the very nature of the transatlantic alliance for the 21st century.